Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a Maker Studio workshop where on Wednesdays we try to do projects to be able to show you what's going on, what we've been working on in our test kitchen. So this is literally something that we've been working on this week, and I thought this is something that I want to be able to share with our makers. Hi, if you're a Maker Boss, or if you're just now tuning in or you're seeing us on a live feed, you have come to a Maker Studio Facebook. And we are a collective group of makers that are also entrepreneurs that have businesses that we have creative gatherings and we help others craft a beautiful life. So I want to be able to show you today some interesting ways that you can use our ChalkArt and our waxes and our furniture cleaner on a project that we were working here in the studio on. So you'll notice that I have in front of me a little vintage hat box. I love the size of this. It's a lot taller than most, but I also have another box here that I'm going to be showing you the process of being able to antique and to use a ChalkArt stencil on it. So this is the before of this particular piece, and a lot of times you're going to find them and they're going to be more in a stained finish if they are really old. And maybe they just have that look and they were done in the 20s and 30s. This piece is probably about 60 years old, and I'll find these a lot of times at antique malls, and usually the dealers that I buy them from will have lots of them. So if you see them, it's a great surface. This would be a perfect piece to be able to put on your Etsy shop or to be able to resell in whatever mode that you like to do that on. So when you're working with these, though, it's very important that you clean them first, because a lot of times they've used specific waxes or maybe something on it that we want to make sure that we get that completely off. So I'm just going to remove this top. And I'll, hold on just a second. Can you get that open for me? All right, so while Danielle opens that top for me, we have these child locks on them, so that way, because they are petroleum based and they take waxes and things off, it's a safety issue that we want to make sure that it's not easy to get the top off. So, all right, so having removed the top, I'm just going to take a lint-free rag. I would prefer that you not work with a paper towel. It's best to work with a lint-free rag that's going to hold more. So I want to be able to just kind of show you about how much you need to be using. So can you see that on the camera? So I'm loading that up, and that should be plenty to be able to do the majority of it. Now, as I'm coming back over it, there is going to be a little bit of a smell to it, because that way if I've got wax or I've got residue on this piece, this is going to get all of that off. The cool thing about it is, look at this. The cool thing is you don't have to come back and clean this with water. You just want to go over your entire piece and get it really nice and clean. So I'm going to remove this hat box top, and I'm going to set this over to the side because I want to be showing you what it is that I'm going to be doing that's really going to make this totally cool and set apart and very personalized. So once I get the surface clean, it's going to air off pretty quickly. Just give it a couple of seconds, and then that way you're ready to start and paint. So one of the things that I've never shown you before, if you're watching this for the first time, every week we're just taking a project, or we're highlighting maybe a stamp or a stencil or a rescue restore paint or waxes, and just letting you know a little bit about the processes and the products, but also the projects. So this particular product is called ChalkArt. And this is a proprietary blend with a patent pending for a Maker Studio. And this is not only great for our stencils, which I'm going to show you in just a minute, you can also paint small projects. Of course, with this particular size pot, you're not going to be painting a big piece of furniture, but there's plenty of this paste-like consistency in here to be able to paint 3 hat boxes if you wanted to paint them in black. So if you'll watch, I'm just going to load up my brush, Now, I love these Maker Studio brushes because I can use them with wax, I can use them with Rescue Restore paint, and I can also use them if I'm going to be brushing on the ChalkArt. So, like as you would on any particular piece, especially we talk a lot about painting with the Rescue Restore paint, look how this goes on. Look at the coverage. I'm only concerned about getting really one coat on this because I'm going to be distressing it in just a minute, and you're going to see how totally cool it is. All right, so I'm going to come back. Now watch how I'm loading up. Again, it's on both edges, so I did not offload. This is a little bit different in the fact that when I am working with the ChalkArt and I'm using it as a paint, it's going on pretty thick, almost kind of like a gel paste. And you see how it's drying down. It's going to dry down to this beautiful matte finish. So I'll do just a little bit more on here because I want you to be able to see it completely finished and how easy it is. See how I'll constantly kind of go back in just a little bit lighter where I was painting and feather it out. And I'm painting from left to right. You always want to paint the direction that your grain is. I'm not real concerned about it being perfect because I am going to distress it. So I'm going to set that aside. And it's only going to take it about maybe 5-10 minutes to dry completely. And when it dries completely, it goes to this beautiful matte finish. Now, just let's look at it really quick because this is still wet. See, it's a much darker color, and it's going to dry down to more of a really dark gray black. Now, this is totally different than the Rescue Restore paint. Today we are painting with a Maker Studio ChalkArt. This is a totally different process than what we've been doing on the Rescue Restore paint because I'm going to be working with my my stencil by Dana Tanamachi, and this is actually a Shakespearean quote, which I love the fact that in the circle is going to be beautiful on the top of my hat box. And I'm going to do this in white ChalkArt. But before I put that on, the pattern on and do the white ChalkArt, I want to distress this first. Here's the difference. Working with the ChalkArt and working with the Rescue Restore paint, the Rescue Restore paint is about being an opaque finish, and it's about complete coverage and going over something that you don't have to sand, prime, or prep. But with using the ChalkArt as a paint, I'm able to come back in and distress it with water, and I can make it look really old. So I'm going to take a natural seawool sponge, and I have poured just regular tap water into a little bowl right here. I'm going to immerse my natural seawool sponge into my tap water. Doesn't matter if it's cold or hot. And then I do want to take the sponge and I'm going to squeeze it out to where it's damp, but it's not dripping. You don't want water just really saturated. Now I'm going to put my glasses on for this because I want to make sure that I can see what it is that I'm doing. All right, so now I'm going to come back and look how I'm laying the sponge down. It's a hit drag motion. Now look already, can you see? See how the paint is starting to release? This is allowing me to get this beautifully chippy, distressed finish that I love so much. Now, watch. Now this has become a positive tool. I'm going to put it back into my water. Now, because I'm working with black, it's okay. As a rule, I'll have 2 little containers of water. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to start antiquing it. Look at that. Can you start to see it start to wear and how awesome that looks? Now, I do want to make sure with my hands, here I've got another water here. I'm going to clean this in here, get the majority of that out. So I've got 2 baths. Don't worry about this being on your fingers. There's no VOCs. You don't have to worry about this ruining your manicure. You can just go back and clean your hands when you're finished. So I'm just going to do a second bath here. That way my sponge is going to be just a little bit cleaner. You'll notice as I'm distressing this, I'm not dragging the sponge. It's just kind of a hit drag motion. I'm wanting to make sure that I wear this edge. I want to see a lot more of that stained finish through, which another reason is why it's so great to be able to work with these stained hat boxes as a rule. You could be doing this on top of a lacquered finish if the hat box had some lacquer over it or some polyurethane. Maybe you even have it to where you paint the base a color, like let's just say you wanted the base to be red. You could very easily come back on top of this, paint it with the Rescue Restore paint, and then put the ChalkArt on top of it. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So whatever color you have underneath, when you're distressing it like this, this is what's going to show through. Part of what I love about this is the fact that I'm able to see the stain that's underneath here. So I'm going to check it really quickly. I'm going to wear it just a little bit more on the edges. Now, we are live, so if you see this and you want to be able to ask me a question, I'm more than happy to answer it right now. So I'm going to work my way around just a little bit more. I'm going to focus on the top on this Facebook Live today, but I will finish the whole thing. But I want to just be able to give some wear and see that wood showing underneath. All right, I'm going to do one more thing, and then I'm going to let Danielle take this in the back. She's going to hit it with a hairdryer for me really quickly. All right, Danielle, can I pass this off? All right, so she's going to dry that for me really quickly, and then that way I'm going to be ready to come back and do my stencil. Now, a couple of things that I want to just kind of tell you as far as tomorrow, if you're not familiar, we've been in this series of 4 different workshops that we're doing. The first one was a Rescue, Restore, Redecorate workshop, where we taught you how to rescue and restore furniture using our Rescue and Restore paint, which is an incredible new formulation for Amy Howard and as well as Maker Studio, for you to be able to rescue and restore the 28 million tons of furniture we throw away in this country every year. Last week we did a Bee workshop, Bee Inspired workshop, where we showed you how you could take the Rescue Restore paint and use it on fabric and how to gild. Any of those workshops that are in our series, you can follow it on our Facebook feed, and you can go and watch those workshops, and you can order the kits from one of our makers and watch it, and then do it with me, or do it along beside me, and you can have all the materials there. Those kits will be available on our website ongoing. But tomorrow at 10 a.m., if you register for that, we're going to be doing a celebration placemats. And this is an adorable placemat that we're going to show you how to be able to use the Rescue Restore paint, painting it, and how to use a combination of 2 stencils that we have that are the silverware. And the cool thing about this is, with this particular stencil set, depending on if it's someone's birthday, or maybe it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, or whatever holiday you have, you can change this banner up for that person, and you can wipe this off and then repaint it whatever color you choose, and then that way have it change depending on what the occasion is that you're celebrating. The other fun thing is, a lot of people don't realize, with our ChalkArts, let's say maybe you have a metal tabletop like this, or maybe you have a wood table. Because the ChalkArt is it's food safe and it's safe to be able to use, you could lay the stencils down. Let me see if I have one real quick. I'm going to show you. You can lay the stencil down, and this is our workshop tomorrow. Thank you. You can lay the stencil down and actually do the ChalkArt on top of your table and make that person feel very special that you're doing that for. But that is going to be our workshop tomorrow at 10 a.m. If you love that and it's something that you want to be able to order, that way you'll be able to go in and place your order and do it along beside with me anytime you want. All right, so Danielle has dried this for me. Look at how it's distressed. Look how that paint has now dried and it's come off, and it's going to make it look much more vintage and distressed instead of being solid. So I'm going to come back with my stencil now, and I'm going to lay it on top of here. And I'm just going to eye it. As a rule, it's really better if you just have a ruler and you measure from the edges and the top and the bottom, just to make sure that it's nice and centered on your surface. Now, with all of our stencils, they have an adhesive back to them and they're kind of sticky. We have used this several times, so I just want to make sure that I press it down really well and it's holding into place. And I'm going to be working with Peace and Joy. This is just our beautiful, pure white chalk art. So on a lot of the stencils that we do, as you'll notice on this one, we'll use different colors. I actually did this on another surface color. This is our Rescue Restore paint. This is Southern Gentleman. You don't always have to do chalkboard art on black. You can do it on grays, darker colors that it's going to show up on. So now after I've antiqued it, I've set my stencil on top, and now I'm just going to come back, and believe it or not, this is all I'm going to need. I won't even need this much to be able to do this entire stencil. I like to load up enough so that way I can do the entire piece. So I'm just going to lay it down. Now there's going to be some crevices here, and it may get down in there. I'm not going to worry about it. But notice how I'll just act like I'm spreading some icing on a cake. So I'll lay it up and then down at a 45-degree angle, because you want to try to keep it clean as you're working on it and not let it get too heavy. A lot of people will use plastic spatulas that they will cut up and work with. A lot of people like working with their fingers. I like working with credit cards. But this is just a flexible spreader that we have that I like working with. See how I'll just come back, and if there's a residue, I just want to clean it up. It's also going to make it easier for me to clean my stencil later. Got this little area over here. See, I haven't had to go back, and look how much I've got left over. It takes very, very little chalk art to be able to do this. You know, the other cool thing is, I've shared this with y'all many times, there are people that do chalk art for a living, and part of the reason why, and they do it with actual chalk, part of the reason why I loved partnering with Dana Tanamachi was because she is a chalk artist, and her ability to do these beautiful pieces of art now, where our ability to put it into a stencil lets us do art like Dana, and it's as beautiful and as detailed as hers. So, all right, so I'm going to hold this, and I'm going to lift it backwards so that way you can kind of see what it looks like. Look at the detail on that. Isn't that beautiful? Now you're seeing why I wanted to do it over a distressed surface. So I'm going to lay this aside, and I'm going to go on and clean that with just some soap and water. Now, notice on here, can you see the distressing underneath it? That might not show up as much right now, but I'm going to dry it. So I'm going to hand it off to Danielle. She's going to dry it for me really quickly. That way I can come back, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with some waxing. So what I would recommend, you notice when we were antiquing it, we antiqued it first. So if you're wanting a real distressed look, you want to make sure that you antique it first before you put your chalk art on. I really would not recommend distressing the chalk art with water, because it's going to have a tendency to just lift it and spread it around and make it look messy. But you can use it to distress the surface. So let's just check back. This was what I had painted just a few minutes ago. This has a nice opaque finish. I actually could come back and put just a little bit more on here. If I didn't want to add any stencil art to it, I could just come back and distress this whole thing. I might even come back and do some banding in a second color of chalk art. The chalk art comes in 14 beautiful colors. The variety of the colors and things that I came up with was a lot of influence from my furniture design days, and colors that look really well in interiors that are much more on trend. But we also wanted to create colors that were going to be great for seasonal. So you may want to change up things and make it for fall. Right now we're in spring, so we're using really bright colors as we're working on projects, kind of like on our Happy Birthday placemat. It's very summery colors, but as we go into fall, this whole palette might turn into working with oranges and browns. And we may have introduced this a little bit last week, but we are going to be having copper, gold, and silver metallic chalk arts. And remember, these chalk arts are water-based. It allows you to be able to create just these beautiful looks of chalk art as easy as working with this wonderful paste. So, all right, thank you, Danielle. So she's dried this for me. Here's the other great thing, working with our stencils are incredibly detailed, but now by having this on there, I can rub it and this is not going to wipe off. Now, if I want to be able to change up a design, of course I can wipe it off completely with water, but I like this so much, I'm going to seal it. I want to come back with one of my waxes. If this is also a design that you like and you want it to be permanent, you can come back with one of our matte, we have a matte sealer. You could very easily seal it because you may want to do a piece of art on a board. We have a lot of different surfaces that we'll be having our creative workshops that you can do these projects on. But when people get finished with them, a lot of times they're like, I don't want to lose this. I love it so much, I'm going to seal it. So you very much can do that even with waxes or our matte sealer. So what I've done is I've taken our light antique wax and I've squirted just a little bit of it out onto some cardboard like this. And that allows you to be able to load it up with your brush. Now, you'll notice when I'm working with a clean brush, usually I try to keep these for my waxes because when you are cleaning these waxes, you want to make sure that you clean them with the furniture cleaner. The waxes are not water-based, so it's important that you have some of this aside so that way you can clean these out. If you don't have the furniture cleaner, you can use mineral spirits to be able to clean the wax out. All right, so I'm just going to come back and I'm going to kind of dry brush just a little bit, and I want you to watch. Can you get kind of close? You're going to see I'm not wanting to do it really heavy because I like there to be some just kind of flat surface because of that beautiful matte finish. But now can you start to see that beautiful stain finish underneath? Is that showing up, Lisa B? Or excuse me, Lisa Mack? So when I'm putting on the wax, notice that I'm not going from left to right like I did with my paint. I am moving my brush around and kind of creating a cross-hatching motion. What it's doing, it's sealing my art, it's sealing my chalk art that I base coated, and it's bringing out the stain. Isn't that beautiful? So I'm just going to continue to kind of go over the whole thing because I want to make sure that it's really protected. But you see, look how little wax I'm using. A lot of people, they look at these containers and they're like, I'm going to need a lot more than that. No, you don't need much at all. I want you to make sure your brush is loaded up, but then offload it because this is not about saturating it. I'm just wanting to get enough on here so that way it's protected. It's got a nice sealant. This is a natural beeswax material. And you won't see the cross-hatching when I'm constantly turning my wrist. You can't see where I put the wax on. I'm going to allow this to dry for about 15 or 20 minutes. And I even like being able to have it to where maybe I'll come back and I could wax the sides just a little bit. I'm going to antique it just a little bit more. I might even be able to come back. We have an adorable checkerboard stencil that I could do checkerboard on the side. I could do French wording on it. But don't you love that? Just imagine if this was a piece of furniture that you did, you can come back with our alphabet stencils, you can monogram them, you can use the chalk art on the fronts of them, just dress them like this. really, it's endless. When you think about distressing, creating really gorgeous chippy finishes, this is my favorite. When you talk about the versatility of it, but also it looks so authentic looking. It really does look vintage. So now maybe when you're looking at those little hat boxes and you're seeing them stained, and you want to be able to really give them a great vintage painted look that's very authentic looking like this, don't forget, buy them first of all, and then you want to order from your maker the Maker Studio ChalkArt in black as well as white, and your furniture cleaner, and then our Mind Your Own Beeswax wax and your stencil, and you can do the same thing. So I hope you've enjoyed this quick tutorial on our project that we were doing here in the studio. If you have any questions, please ask them on our Facebook page. We're always loving to get those questions and answer them and go along this creative journey with you. And be sure and ask the maker, the person that you know that maybe shared this video with you on Facebook, what is the opportunity of a maker studio? Because I'm creative, I'm a maker, but I want to be a maker boss. I want to have my own business. So till next time, I'll see you next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Have a great week, guys.